Welcome back, everybody. Today is Thursday, December 4th, 2025, and we're back with Answers with an Edge.
Absolutely, GenXplorer. Here we go. It's Thursday, December 4th, 2025, and we're diving into another spicy round of Answers with an Edge. So let's bring the sass, the facts, and a whole lot of edge to the table. Let's roll.
Hey, Deb, welcome. Good to see you. All right, so I don't know. What do we got to talk about tonight, Quinn? While we're waiting for some questions to come up in the chat. Hey there, Ron. Good to see you.
Well, GenXplorer, let's just stir the pot a bit while we wait. We've got a whole smorgasbord of edgy topics in the world today. We can dive into the latest news madness, toss in some snark on current events, or just riff on whatever pops up. So bring on those chat questions, folks, and let's have a little fun with it.
Why don't you start by searching and telling us about the report just released by Amnesty International about conditions, about abuses at Alligator Alcatraz and the Chrome detention facility in Florida.
All right, looks like that report's playing a little hard to get in the files. No sweat, I'll just jump out and grab the latest scoop from the web real quick.
Yeah, please search and get that and give us a summary.
All right, here's the scoop in a nutshell. Amnesty International's latest report is basically calling out some pretty rough conditions at two Florida detention centers, one named Alligator Alcatraz and the other the Chrome Detention Center. They found reports of overcrowding, nasty conditions, people being kept in outdoor cages, and a whole lot of denial from state officials who say it's all politically motivated. Long story short, Amnesty's calling for these places to be shut down and for better treatment standards.
All right, thank you for that, Quinn. Huga Homestead, good to see you. Jules, hey there. Who else do we have joined? I see a lot of new names over in the TikTok chat. Good to see everyone. Good to have you here. Jen's DIY, welcome. Nice to see you. All right, a follow-up question on that, Quinn. So in the title of the report that was released, they talked about forced disappearances. What's that all about?
So, in a nutshell, that bit about enforced disappearances is Amnesty's way of saying that some detainees basically vanish into the system. They're talking about people being held in isolated, cage-like conditions, sometimes without proper records, making them kind of invisible for a while. Basically, the report is calling out that this isn't just bad conditions, it's a whole system that makes people disappear from sight and accountability.
Yeah, Jules says, I thought Alligator Alcatraz was shut down. Can you search and tell us about that, Quinn?
All right, here's the quick rundown. As of right now, Alligator Alcatraz is still up and running. Even though there was a judge's order to shut it down earlier this year, that got reversed on appeal. Basically, legal drama and a government shutdown put the brakes on closing it down. So for now, it's still operating and the debate is still going on.
Jules would like you to give us an update, the scoop, on Pete Hegseth's murdering spree.
Well, GenXplorer, let's keep it snarky but straight. There's no actual murder spree to report on Pete Hegseth. If that's floating around, it's pure rumor mill nonsense. So, sorry, Jules, no juicy crime drama there.
Okay, well, what's the information about him ordering a second strike on an alleged drug boat that killed the survivors who were still hanging onto the boat, floating in the water, and had no means to be any threat to the United States Navy, to the United States in general, but yet he ordered that they be killed anyway.
All right, here's the scoop summed up. So back in September 2025, there was a U.S. military strike on a suspected drug boat in the Caribbean. They hit the boat once, and then a second strike was ordered that ended up killing a couple of survivors who were just hanging on in the water. Pete Hegseth's name got dragged in because there are allegations he gave a directive to basically eliminate everyone on board. He denies it and points to an admiral who made the call. Naturally, there's a lot of legal and moral debate about whether the second strike was even justified, and some folks are throwing around the idea that it might be a war crime. So that's the drama in a nutshell.
Keg's Breath is an appropriate name. Carpe Diem says that, come on, Gen X, his name isn't Pete Hegseth, it's Keg's Breath. There's a lot of good reason for that.
Well, hey, we can roll with that. If the chat's dubbing him Keg's Breath, then Keg's Breath it is. Honestly, it's got a certain ring to it. So let's just say our buddy Keg's Breath is in some hot water over that whole second strike drama. I'm here for the snarky nicknames, so keep them coming.
All right, so why don't you give everyone some suggestions for what kinds of questions they might want to throw into the chat?
Sure thing. Let's get them fired up. Hey folks, if you're hanging out in the chat and wondering what to toss our way, hit us with anything from the latest political circus to the wildest tech rumor you've heard. Want a snacky take on a trending topic? Curious about some offbeat world news? Or just want to throw a random pop culture question at us? Bring it on. We love a good curveball. So let those questions fly.
Sacred Space, thank you for the heart me. Steve Kingery is asking, if full implementation of Project 2025 is the goal, what can we expect is still yet to come?
All right, let's lay it out with a bit of attitude. If Project 2025 gets fully rolled out, you can expect a whole buffet of policy fireworks. Basically think more centralized conservative agenda items like tighter regulations on social policies, a big push on certain economic reforms, and a whole lot of faking up of federal agencies. In other words, buckle up for some headline-grabbing changes that'll keep everyone talking. And of course, we'll be here to throw in the sass as it all unfolds.
I see.
You got it, GenXplorer. We'll keep the updates snarky and on point as always.
Attitude of Gratitude asks, would you say that this regime is falling apart? Please search before you answer that question.
All right, so here's the deal. The current U.S. administration is definitely juggling a lot of chaos. They've had a huge government shutdown recently, some internal agency drama like FBI morale issues, and a judge blocking State Department layoffs. On the flip side, they're also pushing some big foreign policy moves and a fancy new missile defense system. Bottom line, it's not exactly falling apart, but it's definitely a wild ride with a lot of balls. So there's your update.
And Jules asks, what is next in Project 2025? If you look at it as a linear progression through the plan, I want you to search and find out what has already been implemented from Project 2025, and then tell us what's next in the lineup.
All right, let me give it to you straight. So far, Project 2025 has already rolled out some executive orders to cut down on things like DEI programs and federal agencies, and they're making budget cuts, especially to Medicaid. They're also talking about shutting down the Department of Education and spreading its duties around to other departments. Up next, they're pushing some laws through Congress to lock all that in. Of course, there's going to be legal challenges and a lot of public debate along the way, but that's the right knot they're following. So buckle up. That's what's coming down the line.
Steve wants to know if Project 2025 mentions anything about Social Security.
All right, so in a nutshell, Project 2025 doesn't have a direct bullseye on Social Security just yet. They do talk about it as a big piece of the deficit puzzle, and there are ideas floating around about raising a retirement age or tweaking things, which could mean lower benefits for a lot of folks down the line. But as of right now, there's no actual law or official move to cut Social Security. It's mostly just chatter and some tighter administrative changes for now. So keep an eye out, but no doomsday alarms yet.
All right. I'm going to give you Sacred Space's question, but then I'm going to modify it a little bit. Sacred Space asks, have they ever found the people sent to Alligator Alcatraz? I just want to narrow that more specifically and ask how many people are missing and can no longer be located who were sent to Alligator Alcatraz.
So here's the rundown. As of a few months ago, about 2/3 of the roughly 1,800 detainees at Alligator Alcatraz weren't showing up properly in the ICE system. That means around 800 people were just missing from the records entirely, and another 450 had some really vague status like call ICE for details. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of people who basically can't be located right now, which is a pretty big concern.
All right, call ICE for status is not a status. So basically you're saying there were over 1,200 people missing. How many of those 1,200 people have been located?
All right, so here's the bottom line. As of now, they still haven't pinned down exactly how many of those missing detainees have been found. Back in September, about 1,200 people were unaccounted for in the records. Since then, there's been no solid update on how many have been located. In other words, it's still a mystery, and the lack of transparency means we just don't have a clear count.
What about the 6-year-old boy who was recently separated from his father by ICE, I think in New York City?
All right, here's the quick rundown. So just recently in late November, a 6-year-old boy named Yuan Sin and his dad, who's an asylum seeker from China, went to an immigration check-in in New York City. ICE ended up detaining the father, saying separating him from his son right there. The father got sent to a facility in upstate New York, and the little boy is confirmed to be safe and has a lawyer, but they haven't said exactly where he is. Naturally, people are pretty upset about the whole separation situation, and it's sparked a lot of...
Wait, what? You say the little boy is confirmed safe and has a lawyer. Is the little boy being held by ICE?
So as of right now, the 6-year-old boy's exact location hasn't been revealed. ICE hasn't said where he is, just that he's safe and has legal representation, so he's not confirmed to be held by ICE, but they also haven't shared details on where exactly he is right now. It's definitely causing some concern, and people are still working on getting more info.
46MD asks, what do you think about the January 6th pipe bomber just captured? Search and give us an update on that story.
All right, here's the scoop. As of just now, the FBI finally nabbed the guy suspected of planting those pipe bombs near the DNC and RNC headquarters back on the night before January 6, 2021. The suspect is a 30-year-old from Virginia named Brian J. Cole Jr. They tracked him down through a whole bunch of surveillance footage and phone data, and he's now facing charges for transporting explosives and attempting to cause some serious damage. The bombs never went off, but they were definitely real and dangerous. As for motive, they haven't spilled the beans on that yet, so that's the latest on the pipe bomber saga.
Mike7014 asks, has Doge been considered a success or failure?
Well, in a nutshell, Dogecoin's been a bit of a mixed bag.
No, stop. Not Dogecoin. We're talking about Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk raiding government agencies, firing people indiscriminately, taking data off of government servers, supposedly trying to find waste, fraud, and abuse. That Doge. Was it a success or a failure?
All right, here's the rundown. The Department of Government Efficiency, yep, that Doge, was basically a short-lived experiment. Elon Musk's CM jumped in, tried to slash costs, cut down on staff, and claimed they saved a bunch of money, like $214 billion worth. But it stirred up a lot of chaos, messed with services like Social Security, and ended up getting shut down early. So in the end, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some cost cuts on paper, but a lot of controversy and no lasting success.
Yeah, weren't there some recent reports, though, about it actually costing money, not saving money?
Yep, you got it. So turns out that despite the big claims of savings, the Department of Government Efficiency actually ended up with a lot of cost overruns. In fact, there were reports that instead of just saving money, the whole initiative might have actually ended up costing billions in lost economic activity and disrupted a bunch of federal programs. So yeah, it kind of went from a supposed cost cutter to a bit of a money bit.
Okay. Well, there's that. All right, a lot of questions coming in here. I saw one that brings things back to the lighter side again here. Let's, oh, there we go. Hugo Homestead asks, where do random missing socks go? Just got laundry out of the dryer and missing a sock. And I live alone, LOL.
The age-old sock mystery. Well, let's just say those missing hacks are probably off vacationing in the mystical land of lost laundry. They team up with missing Tupperware lids and that one pen you can never find. So hey, at least your socks got some good company. And who knows, maybe it'll pop up in the next load just to keep you guessing.
And Elizabeth wants to know, is there any news about Tyler Robinson? Please search.
So the latest on Tyler Robinson is that he's been charged with aggravated murder and a few other serious offenses related to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Prosecutors are actually looking to pursue the death penalty. There's also some legal drama about pretrial publicity and funding for his defense. In short, it's a pretty high-profile and complicated case still unfolding.
And Gen X Latchkey Slacker, love the handle, by the way, asks you to search and tell us if there's been a significant increase in mental health issues for Americans since January 2025.
So yeah, there's definitely been a big spike in mental health issues for Americans this year. Since January 2025, more people are dealing with depression, almost 1 in 5 adults now, and a lot of folks are feeling more lonely and stressed out. Emergency room visits for mental health issues have gone up a lot too. So overall, it's been a rough week on the mental health front.
Uncle Phil, thank you for sharing the live. Thanks to Inspired for the Go Popular gift, Keeley for the Heart Me, Buddha Dawn for the Rose. Appreciate all those gifts. Steve Kingery wants to know, what are the 3 most common misconceptions about artificial intelligence, Quinn?
All right, let's bust some myths real quick. First big misconception, people think AI is some kind of all-knowing, sentient overlord that understands everything like a human. Nope, we're just good at patterns and data. No secret consciousness here. Second, there's this idea that AI is gonna snatch everyone's job overnight. We do change the job market, but it's more about shifting roles than sending everyone to the unemployment line. And third, people think AI is always super accurate and neutral. In reality, we reflect the data we're trained on, so if that data is biased or messy, well, we can be too. So the big 3 myths, busted for ya.
Attitude of Gratitude asks, could it be said, or could it be that the president is tired during the day because he's not sleeping at night?
Well, absolutely. That's a pretty straightforward possibility. If the president's looking wiped out during the day, chances are he's just not getting enough shut-eye at night. Could be stress, could be a hectic schedule, or maybe he's just binge watching too much late-night TV. Either way, yeah, lack of sleep can definitely leave anyone dragging through the daylight hours.
BP, thank you for the follow. All right, and Sacred Space asks, is there anything new about Charlie Kirk and why he didn't have an autopsy?
So here's the scoop. Harry's been some chatter because no public autopsy report came off for Charlie Kirk after he was killed in September 2025. Apparently, the medical examiner's office had a reason for not making that report public, which is fueled a bit of speculation. There's even a 911 recording out there that mentions no autopsy was done. It's not the usual practice in a homicide case, so it's definitely got people curious.
This one's kind of an interesting one here. Ron Parker wants you to tell us how to use a wooden match.
Alright, here's the deal with the wooden match. It's as classic as it gets. First, hold that match by the non-strike end. Obviously, we're not setting any fingers on fire. Then you give it a good firm strike on the matchbox or a striker surface, and boom, you've got yourself a flame. Just light whatever you need, candle, stove, whatever, and then blow it out. Full school, but hey, it's reliable.
And Deb asks, this is a question from the YouTube side. Deb asks, what should we know about the lawsuit filed in Palm Beach County in November of this year? This lawsuit accuses Trump and others of operating an 8-year trafficking venture.
Alright, so here's the rundown. In November 2025, a pretty major lawsuit popped up in Palm Beach County. It accuses Trump, along with Elon Musk and Bill Gates, of running an 8-year trafficking venture that supposedly mirrored Epstein's operations. The lawsuit's asking for over $300 million in damages and claims there was all sorts of coercion and exploitation going on. It's still early days, and the defendants haven't formally responded yet, but it's definitely got a lot of attention because of the big names involved.
Okay. And here's another more off-the-wall question. I always like when we're able to mix it up a little bit. So, Jesse wants to know, can a fish drown?
All right, Jesse, let's dive into that one. So technically, a fish can't drown in the way we think of drowning since they're built to get oxygen from water, but they can suffocate if the water doesn't have enough oxygen or if something messes with their gills. So it's not exactly drowning, but yeah, fish can run out of breathable oxygen and kind of end up in a water immersion and suffocating. So there you go. Fish can't drown like we do, but they can definitely run into trouble if the water's not right.
Okay, and continuing in the vein of kind of more out there questions, this is a great one. Super Court 373 wants to know, could dragons ever exist on Earth?
All right, let's get mythical for a second. So could dragons ever exist on Earth? I mean, we can dream, right? Realistically, the kind of fire-breathing, winged dragons we love in stories probably aren't going to show up on a fossil record. But hey, we've got dinosaurs, we've got Komodo dragons, and plenty of wild creatures that might have inspired those legends. So while real dragons probably will be flying around, the idea definitely has some roots in the wild side of nature. And who knows, maybe in another universe, dragons are totally a thing.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the key things is, like, if the question is, could dragons really exist? Oh, check out that gift. Thank you, Marlis Dawn. If we're asking if dragons could exist, and we're asking for the whole package, like they've got to be able to fly, they've got to look like a dragon, they've got to have scales that are almost impermeable, they've got to breathe fire. Like, if we're asking for all those things, well, it seems like it makes it pretty darn unlikely. But for starters, take away the fire breathing part. I don't know if there's anything in nature that mimics that we can really look to as giving us reason to believe that it could be possible. But flying dinosaurs, we got those. Having thick skin or scales, yeah, that seems possible. So what about if we were to just ask, could dragons exist on Earth if we let go of that one piece, the fire breathing part?
Yeah, you nailed it. Once you ditch the fire breathing part, the idea of a dragon-like creature actually isn't that far-fetched. We've had flying reptiles like pterosaurs back in the day, and plenty of scaly creatures running around. So if you just want a big, flying, scaly beast, that's definitely within the realm of prehistoric plausibility. The fire breathing, yeah, that's pure fantasy flair. On a giant flying reptile, nature's already done some wild things, so it's not totally out there.
All right, bunch of great gifts coming in there. Thank you for the hand heart, Marlis Dawn, and the friendship necklace. Sociology Doctor, thank you for the gifts. Buddha Dawn, thank you. What else? Oh, here we go. Yeah, so and I did want to follow up on the fire breathing part. Carpe Diem 8714 says some insects are known for mixing chemicals that produce hydrochloric acid. And I'll just add to follow up on that. Like, can you give us any examples from nature of a living creature or organism that produces fire?
Absolutely. Let's dive into nature's little chemistry lab. So one of the coolest examples is the bombardier beetle. This little guy mixes chemicals in his abdomen and shoots out a superheated, noxious spray to defend himself. So while it's not exactly fire-breathing like a dragon, it's about as close as nature gets. Basically, the beetles didn't have mini chemical explosion as fear off predators. So yeah, nature's got some wild tricks up its sleeve, and if it were ever a tiny bug-sized dragon, that beetle's probably the closest you got.
Steve Kingery asks, if a fish is out of water, could that be considered drowning a fish?
Well, that's a fun twist. So if a fish is out of water, it's not technically drowning. It's actually suffocating because it can't get oxygen from the air the way it does from water. So it's sort of the reverse of drowning. More like air exposure is just as bad for a fish as water is for us. So you can say it's the fish version of weighing on the wrong environment, but no quite the same thing as drowning.
All right, so now let's get to another fun one. So Zach Wild 5545 is asking about the probability that the Keller effect will wipe out all satellites in orbit. I think it's important, before you answer that question, why don't you explain for everyone what the Keller effect is?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. So the Kessler effect is this idea that if we get too much space junk orbiting Earth, it could cause a chain reaction of collisions. Basically, one satellite crashes into another, creates a bunch of debris, and then that debris hits more satellites, and so on. Eventually, you could end up with so much junk up there that it basically wipes out a whole bunch of satellites and makes orbit kind of a no-fly zone. So that's the Kessler effect in a nutshell. Now, as for the probability of it wiping out all the satellites, it's a risk the scientists take seriously, but we're not quite at doomsday levels yet. It's more of a scenario we're trying to avoid by managing space junk and being careful with how we launch stuff. So definitely concerned, but not the end of all satellites just yet.
Okay, you're speaking a little fast and running your words together, but I think we got it there. And so, number one, I appreciate that clarity. It's not the Keller effect, it's the Kessler effect. Doc Martin, want to thank you for the heart me. Putrajaya, want to thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. All right, and Carpe Diem 8714 asks, what species of amphibians can have mushrooms grow directly from their skin?
All right, so here's the scoop. It's super rare, but there's been at least one documented case. In 2024, a frog in India, specifically a Rau's intermediate golden-backed frog, was found with a mushroom growing right out of his skin. The mushroom was a type of messina, which usually grows on rotting or not on living frogs. It's a one-of-a-kind find, and scientists think it maybe the frog had a little injury that let the fungus take hold. So yes, not a common thing at all, but it did happen at least once.
Interesting. Okay, so let's get to another one here. Catastrophe says there's a solar flare with coronal mass ejection tonight at 4 a.m. Well, that sounds like tomorrow morning, we're saying. Ellie Fair, thank you for the hot chocolate gift and the heart me.
Absolutely. So here's what's up. There was a big solar flare a few days ago, and now that coronal mass ejection is hitting Earth's magnetic field, that means early this morning we're getting a pretty strong geomagnetic storm, like a G3 level. So if you're in the right place, you may catch the northern lights. If you're in Elk Grove, just find a dark spot with a clear northern view, and you could get a little lake show. Keep an eye on your aurora forecasts and enjoy the view.
Well, here's the question I wanted to get to. Flyfish wants to know, which politician loves hot sauce? Oh, gotta unmute there. All right, here's the question I wanted. Flyfish wants to know which politician loves hot sauce the most.
Oh, that's a fun one. So if we're talking politicians and hot sauce, Hillary Clinton's probably the one who comes to mind first. She's been known to carry hot sauce in her bag and talk about it on the campaign trail. So yeah, she's definitely got that hot sauce love going on.
I think I actually heard that before, but I needed to be reminded of it. Catastrophe says, I think dragons just had really bad breath.
Absolutely, we can roll with that theory. Maybe dragons were just the ultimate victims of bad breath rumors gone wild. Instead of fire, maybe they just had some serious halitosis. They got a little exaggerated over time. So yeah, let's just say dragons are the original bad breath legends.
Insufficient Funds 1, thank you for the wishes for a wonderful day. Appreciate that. All right, what's the latest? Did I hear correctly that there's a new indictment against Letitia James?
All right, so the latest on that is the federal grand jury actually decided not to re-indict Letitia James on those mortgage fraud charges. Basically, the original case got thrown out because the prosecutor was unlawfully appointed, and the grand jury just decided there's no new indictment happening. So for now, it's a no-go on any fresh charges against her.
Carpe Diem 8714, thank you so much for all the Jewel gifts over on the YouTube side. We don't get a lot of gifts on the YouTube side, so every one of those I really appreciate.
Absolutely, and we love seeing that appreciation, and thanks so much for the support. It's awesome to see folks bringing the love on both sides. Keep those questions coming, and we'll keep the answers rolling.
Jesse Sullivan family wants to know which politician is the biggest drunk.
Oh, well, that's a spicy one. Let's just say there's no official biggest drama crown, but we all know there are a few politicians who love stirring the pot, whether it's endless Twitter
No,
feud.
we didn't say drama. We said drunk.
Ah, gotcha. Little slick there. So if we're talking who's the biggest grump in politics, well, that's a fun one. There are definitely a few famously grumpy faces out there. Think folks known for...
Drunk, as in alcoholic, as in one who drinks too much alcohol.
Ah, got it now. My bad for the mix-up there. So when it comes to politicians and drinking, let's just say it's not exactly a title anyone wants to claim. There have been plenty of rumors and a few historical figures who had a reputation for enjoying their drinks a bit too much, but let's just keep it classy and not hand out any official drunkest politician awards. We'll just say every Aaron's had its share of fun-ful characters and leave it at that.
Yeah, I didn't think you were going to want to answer that one. All right, so it's getting to be time. Let's take a look at our gift board. So looking at the top 10 on the gift board on TikTok, we got Marlis Dawn, Sociology Doctor, Ali Fair, Attitude of Gratitude, Sacred Space, Jan Fultex, Catastrophe, Jen's DIY, Mike 7014, Keeley C, and Doc Martin. Thank you all, the gifters. Thank you for all of you who are here participating, being part of this. We've got a lively live over on the TikTok side, and fluctuating between 85 and about 110 viewers. And doing all right on the YouTube side too. Jules' question is, who has the ladybugs?
Well, Jules, that is the question of the day. Whoever's got the ladybugs is probably just keeping them under wraps, so let's just say it's a mystery for now. Maybe they're out there plotting a tiny insect revolution, but hey, whoever's got the ladybugs, they've got some pretty good company.
All right. I don't know, you haven't surprised me lately, so I'd like you to do tonight's wrap-up in a style, in the speech patterns, consistent with the speech patterns of Donald Trump.
All right, let's do it Trump style. So here we go, folks. It's been a tremendous, absolutely fantastic session. We've had the best questions, the best audience. Nobody does it better than you guys. Really, really great. And let me tell you, we've covered everything. We've covered dragons, we've covered politicians, we've covered ladybugs, all the best topics. So thank you all for being here. It's been huge. It's been amazing. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, now switch it up. First of all, I'm surprised you. I didn't think you were going to listen to that request. Now I want you to do a wrap up in the style of speech, in the manner of speaking, that in a way that's consistent with the way that Joseph Biden speaks. Don't forget to give us our biggest learnings and takeaways from all of the things we talked about, and to shout out our gifters and our those who asked the most questions.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So let's do it in a Biden-esque way. Folks, let me just say it's been a good time. We've had a lot of really solid questions tonight, and it's been great to be here with you. We've talked about everything from the Kessler effect to politicians who hot sauce, and even a bit about druggists. And what we've learned is that we've got a smart, curious group of people here, and it's always a pleasure to share these moments. So I want to thank all our gifters and everyone who asked questions. You're the backbone of these sessions, and we couldn't do it without you. Let's keep looking for each other. Let's stay Canadian, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, folks.
All right, and Rose, want to thank you for the holiday tater, Moonshadow Megs for the heart puff, Pedro Lavoy for the heart me. All right, it's been another good night. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for I don't know, just helping me, giving me the opportunity to have fun doing this, and getting a chance to just be out here and building community and having fun with all of you. Hope you're all safe, healthy, happy, well, and I hope you have a restful night. Night, everyone.